If you would not mind saying and spelling your first and last name for me and giving me, I suppose, the title you'd go by in this, in relation to the mill.
In relation to the mill, I've helped them as a consultant.
Okay.
Okay? There's a bunch of younger guys that, 11 of them, that owned and bought the mill from the previous owners. They needed environmental permits fixed, they needed cash, and they needed assets, of which I was able to help them.
So the position that you are working would be described as consultant. That would be the way they would.
That would be the only position you could describe me, and I cannot, right now, I'm not allowed to work in the mill.
So I was going to ask.
Or for the mill.
So we know there was something filed with Judge Griesbach, I apologize.
Yes.
As to changing your position with the mill. Is there a placement where that stands right now?
When I was released here as an engineer, and they paid me $100 an hour. I have a position offered to me by the new owners to do that same thing. I have to have permission from the Bureau of Prisons to do anything.
Have they granted that? I know that was put in about a month ago, a month and a half ago.
Yeah,
Has it been granted or denied?
It takes time.
Understandably.
It takes time. And when you're stigmatized as a felon, it's a hard way to live. I've never done anything wrong. I didn't have a speeding ticket ahead of that. So, go to church every week. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I've never done a drug in my life. Okay? I ran a company with 5,000 W-2s. I hold license in 59 states. In the 29 states, 59 license. So I enjoy what I do. I love helping these people. I was able to cut the mercury that was being seeped into the river to zero. I was able to get the OSHA fines and put in a safety system where no one would get hurt. In my career, I had 44 million man hours without a crippling, disabling, or injury. They had a experience modification of 2.9, which was the highest of any paper mill in the world for safety. Not good. It's now 1.5, and I've only been here a year. I'm trying to teach people and train people how to be OSHA compliant and that no one ever gets hurt. Nothing's worth a life and doesn't get hurt. And I've funded over $2.3 billion of tissue projects. Funded and worked on those projects. Never with a lost time or never with a issue of not finishing on time or doing something to make quality. So I'm here by request from these people, and Judge Griesbach allowed me to go from the Eastern District of Wisconsin to the Eastern District of Michigan. Now the Bureau of Prisons is saying he didn't want me to work in the tissue mill. So I have to get permission from Judge Griesbach, who's retired, to grant me permission to work with the local people and train them. I've already showed them how to make 100% post-consumer pulp, and we made over 150 tons. And that's what we're going to sell.
So and forgive me as I focus a few of these first questions on kind of your involvement with this, there were concerns about the factory to begin with. There were people who were concerned seeing the state of it, knowing the history of what they were doing. I know there were renewed concerns when people found out that you were involved due to your history. What do you say to people who are nervous about this? Community members who are nervous about that, about the factory to begin with, and then about your involvement with it. What do you say to them?
Well, I say to them, look at my record in tissue. I've done 46 of the last 56 tissue machines built in the United States. Not one with a problem. My history speaks for itself. I do not mess up on an EPC, on an engineering, procure, construct job. I will build a great tissue machine and tissue mill here. I built one right that can be looked at in O'Connell Falls Tissue, in De Pere, Wisconsin, called Ecofiber, in Faypen, Pennsylvania, and all over the United States. Spirit and Construction and Voss Electric were companies that were started by me and run today and run very well. I'm no longer affiliated with them. I'm 69 years old, but I love working in the tissue industry. They said that I had a problem with EB-5 where people from China bought U.S. citizenships by investing money, and I misappropriated those funds. It's not true, but I couldn't defend myself where I was, and they go off and they try to get your family, so I pled guilty to stop that. When they found all the documents that were hidden, I got left out of prison with less than half of my sentence served. I've now been out 2 years, no issues. I've never hurt anybody or done anything negative in my life. I go to church, I support the churches, and if I can work as an electrical engineer, which I'm very good at, there's no one in the United States with more electrical license than Ron Van Den Heuvel.
So you've mentioned that working with this new ownership group, you've helped them get some of this capital, you've helped with some of it. Can you describe the kind of steps you've taken helping them set up the work they're trying to do?
Okay, there's a lot of equipment that is required here.
Of course.
That equipment I had, it's being moved here. Okay?
From where? Sorry.
From Green Bay area.
Okay.
And Savannah area. Places I've lived before. Yes. Okay? When you get in trouble like I get in trouble, a $5.5 million home in Green Bay with no debt on it got sold for $800,000. When the government comes in, it just takes things. Okay? I like this mill. I'm not a union man, but I respect unions because I was a union person for most of my life. I got mixed up with this EB-5 people, and some people from South Korea and some people from China. And if you look at what I got charged for, that's what I got charged for. I didn't know enough, and neither did my small town lawyer. We shouldn't have went into that EB-5 program and used that money because there were too many rules on it, and we didn't know enough of what we did. So I spent money and then paid myself back, which is a no-no. Okay? And the money that's being spent here on environmental permits, I mean, I came in here, seen there was no OSHA training, seen the experience modification was 2.9.
Would you mind explaining experience modification training? Would you mind explaining what that is? Because
it's a
I'll
thing.
tell you, I don't know, and I know a lot of our viewers aren't going to know.
Okay. Experience and modification rating is for a thing called workman's comp. It's for people that get hurt on the job. And this mill had a death, not while I was here, had people lose fingers, lose limbs, not while I was here. And that's a history you have to stop. You have to change the culture to a safety culture. To, I don't care what gets done or not get done. I need you to do it safe. When I came in here and these people were here, people were getting hurt. A lady almost lost her life. I came in and I said, I won't help you unless you shut everything down and start over. We have to have a safety culture here.
So the factory's in a position right now, obviously just earlier this week there was the lawsuit, or the temporary restraining order with Certain Capital and Prime Alliance Bank against a number of leased equipment from the factory. Can I ask where those kind of things stand? I know it's 67 pieces of equipment that can't be used, moved, concealed, damaged, anything.
Well, to say it didn't hurt us a lot, it did. Okay? Me not being able to go over and in the plant or work with the plant is hard. I can write safety manuals. I can write environmental permits. I can write how to buy a paper machine. I can write all the things I'm good at. What I can't do is go in the mill right now and put my hands on a young man and say, don't do that. Don't do that. And that's what it needs. It needs that. But what I can do is teach him how to clean up the cinders, the coal dust, the stuff out of the stack that rainwater is running on and mercury's leaking into the river. All stopped, all done. Never will happen again. Anything that can burn coal is shut down and permanently destroyed.
So is the factory still... Is the mill still functioning at this point, minus those 60-some-odd pieces of equipment, minus all the things, the construction and work that you guys have to do?
The pieces of equipment are still there.
Yeah. When I say minus, I mean unable to use, not...
Last September, when these people signed a letter of intent with the old owners, a guy named Kip Bowie, Jim Huffman, Jim Prangy, and Rich Kranitz. 3 of those are convicted felons. They signed an agreement with them to purchase the mill. After that, they sold all this equipment to Certain, and the money didn't come back on the books. So these guys came in with $5 million on $11 million worth of sales and thought they had plenty of money. It's okay, I borrowed it to them. And then they turned around and they need another $5 million.
So you borrowed $5 million to the people trying to...
Yes. But it's okay, I had security on the mill.
Well, so my question becomes, if your only position is as a consultant, but you've got more than $5 million invested in the purchase of these things, is your role still just consultant?
Yes. And you're saying why? The assets Certain don't have are in a company I own. And I'm not going to do anything with it. I cannot do anything that the BOP don't approve.
Of course.
Okay? So I'm here to help only. No one's going to hurt us. No one's going to hurt what's there. You heard my conversation with the guy that's bringing in a lot of capital. The new owners know that I built all these mills around the country with my license. They can see it. All you got to do is look me up. They looked me up. Building 47 of the last 56 tissue machines in the United States, that's a big undertaking. $2.3 billion, a lot of money. And to never have liquidated damages, pretty good record.
So are there any concerns, I guess, with... You've hit a roadblock in a real way with the equipment there, I think would be a fair way to put it. Are there concerns about the next steps moving forward?
No, but I'm going to tell you why.
Please.
The environmental permits here are worth more than $10 million themselves. It's collateral for what I put in. I ain't worried about that. Somebody's going to make a great mill out of this mill. And you listen to a little bit of the conversation telling how it's a little dicey here. There's no sense. We didn't know of the Certain loan. The people that I want to work for did not know about the Certain loan. It wasn't disclosed to them. Well, when they came in here and all of a sudden the checkbook was overdrafted by a local lady, $164,000 at a local bank. That's a lot of money. So we had to put that money in and bring that checkbook to here. And then it kept hitting. And the checkbook kept going negative. And I went to the people and I said, hey, stop that. Who's writing out bad checks? They're not. What they did is they sold this company at a thing called previously spended ACHs. And an ACH is something that can automatically draw off your checkbook. We didn't know that. We didn't know anything about anybody banking at Community First because it wasn't on the books. We didn't know anybody banking at First National. It wasn't on the books. We didn't know anybody banking at Chase Bank. It wasn't on the books. What was on the books is the local banks, PNC and Nicolay. Both worked great with us. Everything's great, and we're going forward and plowing forward. But now Sertant says, listen, there's $1 million sitting in here as a CD against the loan. There's $2 million borrowed, and we got all this piece of equipment. You pay us that $2 million, or we're going to come and get our equipment. That's basically what Sertant says. We're borrowing $5 million more as owners. They're borrowing $5 million more as owners, and we're going to fix that.
So the next step, I know in that case in particular, and just there's a lot of threads here, so forgive me as I jump around.
Sure.
So the next step in that, I know, is an inspection from Sertan, seeing that the equipment is all safe and there, and after that, it'll move forward.
Yep.
Has that been scheduled yet? Have you guys worked out when? I know there was a 10-day...
We gave them 3 days
okay.
to come in at 1 o'clock. I don't want to say that because I don't want to have 25 reporters
Showing
at the
up
front
at your
door,
doorstep.
Which you will anyway.
Yeah, look, we do.
Okay, I
you
hear
do your
you.
job,
I
I
hear
do
you.
mine. I understand.
For the community, Sertant is not for this community. They only care about getting their 31% interest loan paid. It's a loan shark loan.
So a lot of what I'm hearing from you, and I know there's been, in this ownership, in the ownership before that, and the ownership before that, there have been a lot of questions. But it sounds like what I'm hearing from you, at least, is coming into this, there was a lot that you guys were not told. There was a lot that was misrepresented. Is that
Correct.
the case?
That's exactly what happened. September, October, November, and December, they didn't pay a bill. Not anyone. And I don't know why people gave them credit. British Petroleum helped a lot. If it wasn't for Consumers Energy, it'd been shut down a long time ago. We're not losing money. We're actually making more electricity than we're selling, than we're buying. And it's going to work out. The people here, a lot of other people wanted to bring in a bunch of people to run it. The people here, the 2 guys that are running the plant, the mill manager and the president of the mill.
Is that Brent Harriman one of them?
Yep.
Okay.
He's a local kid.
Yeah.
Worked here 25 years. What I usually did when I came into Clarion or an O'Connell Falls or Echo Fiber, I took the guys that were there and just taught them a different way. Taught them, most of these guys, like those 2 guys, Procter & Gamble or them, and they weren't taught right. They've never seen a different way to make tissue. They've never seen a different way to do anything. The first owner, a local guy, really shouldn't be blamed for anything here. What he did is, for 30 years, paid payroll to a community and did really good. And the same thing we do. We pay payroll every week. We pay their health care. We pay Aflac. We pay the things that are there. And when a Sertant, a loan shark, comes in from a long way away and says, I want my equipment, I want it right now, they don't care anything about your community. Nothing. They don't go to church with your people. They don't do the things that they need with the people. And what we're concentrated on is we want to be here for the next 50 years. What you heard me talk to him about, investing $180 million in new equipment, is real. And I've done it several times in my life. It'll be done again here. Okay? They don't care if I do the EPC contract, because people know I'm good at that. Okay? They might care if I was doing EB5 money for citizens again, and I'm not. Okay? But when you make a mistake in life, sometimes you got to admit it. And even if you didn't know, and your lawyer or somebody else should have known, the mistake was made. Well, we're going to make paper cups here. We have FDA approval, that's Food and Drug Administration, to take food contaminated waste, clean it up with our patented process, and we do have a patent, and turn that around and then make paper cups, 600 million paper cups a year.
So what does a timeline look like on getting that kind of work started, knowing that it is as difficult as it is right now to do anything in that space?
What people don't realize, we already started that. We had to take out 3,000 tons of cinders. We had to take out 236,000 tons of poly and garbage. We had to take that out. We had to clean the mill up, and we had to get all the permits done and write specifications to do everything. As you can see in this home, it's an engineer's home. And that's what I am. I'm nothing else. I don't protest to be. People say I'm a scientist. The heck with it. But I do have 70 patents. So I enjoy that. I enjoy what I'm doing. I have 830 bank boxes like this at the mill. And I'm hoping the Bureau of Prisons lets me get back into them, give them to these people, and let them go. Now, everybody's saying, what the hell would this guy do that for? 2% of everything that's made here is paid as a royalty for using them patents. So all I'm doing is letting my patents be used, and there'll be no dirty water going into the river from this paper mill ever again. That's one of my patents. Zero wastewater discharge.
So, one question about another kind of jumping back to another thing, and I apologize as I
go right ahead.
To do that. One of the concerns was the bills that were being paid to the city. Obviously, you had mentioned in those last 4 months between the previous owners, those bills were unpaid. We had known up until, I believe, last month was the last time we had checked that, if I remember correctly, that those bills were still unpaid. Has that changed at this point? It would seem
best way to show you is a check. Now, what people got to remember, only 1 month of that was these guys.
Yeah.
The problem.
I know we had mentioned that in our coverage as well.
Yeah, I know you did. But what I want to tell you is, and I think it's very important, these guys didn't pay any bills. They were in here to grab this company and to make a bunch of money. I'm in here to help the community.
And the ownership team now is in there for that?
The ownership team is 100%. One of the guys has put in $15 million of his own money.
How far, I suppose, is... When you look at the capital that you guys have now and the work you've done, obviously, you started in that negative space.
Where are
you at coming to?
We are 90 days from the gentleman that was on the phone with me here to bringing you 90, maybe 120. Don't pound me down on where it is.
A few months.
But bringing 180 million into this community is a big deal. A huge deal.
And you'll say that, I know you just said it on camera, but you're saying within the next 3, 4, 5 months, that's a thing that you guys have set that is going to happen.
Right. But in order to walk through here, we got to make the mill safe, OSHA-trained employees, clean, whitewashed. When we get all that junk out of there and clean it all out, what we got to do is sandblast the whole mill, put new lighting in it, and paint it. Mm-hmm. It's going to look brand new.
And how long...
And I've done this. You can see pictures. This is what I did in O'Connell Falls. Mm-hmm. That's Governor Thompson, and that's me. This is here. This is pulp made on your old paper machine. It's no longer good to make tissue. So I took technology and engineering and turned it into a pulp dryer. And it dries pulp to be shipped all over the world. 100% post-consumer and FDA approved. Food and Drug Administration approved. So it can be used for paper cups, it can be used for packaging, it can be used for milk cartons. We have a great mill here. This mill will have 700 employees, along with a spot out where Highway 64 meets 75. And we will fabricate water filters, and we will fabricate thermal units that make electricity and syngas.
So incredibly lofty goals have been something we've heard very often, but I think my question really is...
Here's the difference.
My question is, what's a timeline for this? Is this a thing that happens in a year, in 5 years? And can the mill keep up with that?
You'll find no lofty goals that weren't met by me and our group. And I've been with a lot of different groups. I've been with a lot of big companies. We always meet our goals. Now, do we always meet them perfectly on time? If I tell you 120 days and tomorrow another Sertant shows up, it's going to cause me a month or two delay. And that's what Sertant does. A Sertant lawsuit hurts what we're doing. You could see the money that's put into the mill already. And you could talk to the people that put the money in. You know we'll solve Sertant. We just want to know, is there another Sertant? We've only been in here 74 days. 74 days is all we've owned the mill. January 20th.
Yeah, okay.
Okay? Now, it might be a couple days more than that now. Could be close to 90, but imagine us taking out all that garbage in that amount of time. And taking out coal that was laying there being rained on. Coal that was coming down the stack being rained on and coming down and going into the river. That had to stop.
So what's the next step? What's the... When they come in and do their inspection, and hopefully that moves on from those 60 some odd pieces of equipment, what happens after that? What's the next most important thing for you guys to be doing?
Hopefully, we can get these collective group of owners, and hopefully we can get enough money to pay off Sertant and the other issues and clean up and go forward. We have somebody that'll buy the pulp. We have somebody that there. But imagine this group of people that was ahead of us for 7 months not paying a bill and not telling us about it. Not paying a bill and not telling us about it. You'll see a lot of lawsuits come up. Great Lakes Tissue is a company that we let sit there. Okay? A company called Tissue Depot, 11-year-old company, come in and bought assets from Great Lakes Tissue to make sure the company goes forward. We bought the environmental permits. We bought the other permits. We bought the people.
Now, Tissue Depot is a company that you are personally associated with.
I owned it before.
Okay. And
I sold it to these people for what?
$5 million.
A royalty.
Okay. For the
a royalty. I said I will bring this technology in. Here's this equipment, and I'll borrow on my name $5 million. You get this cleaned up.
So I think maybe you can understand why there is some confusion if you're just a consultant, but it's using your old company. It's $5 million of money borrowed against your name. It's your patents. Mm-hmm. You can understand why when it says consultant, there are concerns that you are more than that. Because with this much of a stake in the company, you are more than that.
I am more than that. But I don't want to be. My wife, my children, my family, I don't want to drag them through anything else. You can look at the papers. You can look up everything on me. Google me, and it looks like I'm Attila the Hun. Okay? But I'm not. People that know me and work for me for 20, 30, 40 years in Savannah, Georgia, in Memphis, in other places, in descriptions all over the country. Mm-hmm. It's okay. It's okay. I can get beat up. I ain't hurting anybody. You won't find anything criminal against me. You won't find anything there. And I pled to this. I pled to it. I didn't want any more damage to my family. And the folks that came after me hid hid 4 million documents from me. They're now back, and the 830 bank boxes of information and patents is back at the mill, back here. I got to get permission to go in there and let these people have it and let everything fix up there. And all the engineering for this here is all done. That's a $60 million contribution of technology and engineering for this project. And it's done. You ask what people are waiting for, another project would have to wait until that engineering was done. Mm-hmm. Another place would have to wait until the building was built. They'd have to wait till the environmental permits are in there. They'd have to wait until you got permission to take water and put water back out. None of that has to wait here. We're here, and we like it. And we'll have, and the workers here, good as any place in the world. And I've been every place.
Ron, I want to thank you for making the time to talk to us and giving us a perspective that we really haven't had on this. Anything else that you'd like to say to the audience who might still have questions even after this? Anything else before otherwise I get you off camera?
To the people that were ahead of us and caused this and overdrafted the checkbooks to that lady, leave us alone. Let your fellow Sheboygan citizens, let them have a fighting chance to get out of here. They got a lot of people wanting to help them, and they will help them. I personally, I don't want to ever go back to prison, and I will not. I do what I'm told. And in here, I engineer, I do things. I can't work for the mill right now until Judge Greasebox says I can. He said it once before. I don't know why I was stopped from working at the mill, but I was. So I have to wait until I'm told I can work for the mill.
Ron, I want to thank you. Anything else before I get you off camera?
Nope. Thank you very much for coming, and